Welcome to Managing a Windows 2012 Server Environment. I am your instructor, Robert McMillen, and this is Part 2, Lab 1 of our series on managing the environment. The study materials we're using are the Inside Out Windows Server 2012 book, written by William R. Stanek. And this is Part 2, Lab 1, Managing Windows Server 2012 Systems. We're going to be discussing administration tools, server manager, computer management, and remote desktop. Administration tools. There are several tools we can use to administer the domain and also the server. First one is the control panel. Then there are the graphical tools, the command line, and PowerShell commandlets. So let's first go ahead and get into the control panel. So we're in our Windows Server 2012 server. We'll click on Control Panel, and from here we can see all different types of options that we can use to control and configure the server and the environment. We have color management, device manager. These are all things that are also in workstation versions of Windows. Notifications areas, region, taskbar, the firewall. The firewall by default is turned on. If you decide you want to turn it off, you can do that. Turn firewall on or off. Don't recommend you turn it off, of course. And then if you want, you can also go into advanced settings and you can add an inbound rule to allow traffic inbound. By default, there's a lot of inbound traffic already, but it may not have everything you want. So we'll go ahead and add a rule. Click on New Rule. You can choose a program, a port, some other things. We'll just choose a port. Say we want to turn this into a web server, and we'll choose port 80, which is our web traffic. Allow the connection for all three different types of connections: domain, private, and public. Domain is, of course, the Active Directory domain. It's going to be allowed. Private, if you turn off the domain feature by demoting the server, then private would be if you are on an internal network, and public if you are outside of your internal network, such as a portable device like a laptop. Click Next. We'll call it Web Traffic, and Finish. And now we have our inbound web traffic is allowed. Go back to our control panel. We've got other things such as Credential Manager, Devices and Printers, where we can set up new printers and other devices such as cameras and things. And we have fonts if we want to add or delete fonts. So we can change languages. We can choose remote desktop, remote app, and desktop connections. There's currently none going on right now. Text to speech, if you decide you need that for disability reasons. Windows Update, or you can update your server to the latest version. We have autoplay. When you put in a DVD that wants to auto start, you can turn that on or off. Date and time. Display allows you to change how the icons look. We can choose larger icons if we choose. And we can sign out now in order to make that change, but we're not going to do that this time. We've got mouse changes we can make, power options, sound, troubleshooting. We can choose BitLocker drive encryption. If you've installed that, then you can encrypt the entire hard drive. Default programs allows you to set a default program to be open, such as you can make Internet Explorer your default web browser or choose another browser such as Firefox. iSCSI Initiator allows you to connect to iSCSI devices. Network and Sharing Center, we've been in this before in order to look at our network settings. Programs and features. This allows us to take a look and see what programs are installed, and we can uninstall them or fix them if we want. System just sort of gives us the system properties of what's going on and gives us links to other activities we want. User accounts. Now, on a domain controller, you're not going to be able to make these kinds of changes, but on a computer that's a work group, you can go ahead and add additional users at that location. Administrative tools is one of the largest ones, and this allows us to see all kinds of tools that, if it's a domain controller such as this one is, you're going to see Active Directory tools listed here. So one of those tools that we use the most is the Users and Computers tool. And when we open that up, we now see Active Directory. And we see all the different folders called OUs, or organizational units. We can see the domain controllers, we can see computers, and we can see users, but you can move those users into various different OUs. And we'll talk about why you'd want to do that and how to manage that later on in the series. We also have command line and PowerShell commandlets. So if you want just a command line to open up, then you can just click on command or type CMD from any box. And you can see the standard command prompt where you can run commands, but some commands called commandlets can only be run from PowerShell. So commandlets are pre-programmed devices that allow you to do a series of different commands all at once just by typing the commandlet. Commandlets are all over the place. They're used for repairing things, adding functionality to applications such as Exchange Server, and used for a lot of different reasons where a command prompt just isn't going to be good enough. A commandlet using PowerShell allows you to do many things at once in a pre-programmed commandlet. We'll move on to Server Manager. Server Manager starts by having the dashboard pop up, and you also have tools and file and disk management that you can use in the Server Manager. Server Manager is basically where you manage everything, and if you can't find it in the manager itself, you can find it linked somewhere to the Server Manager. So let's go to Server Manager, and by default there's a little icon of that right in the corner. And from here, we can add roles and features to the server, which we'll talk more about later. We can add other servers to manage, so you can actually manage other servers from this one location. You can create a server group in case you have a lot of servers you want to group into different areas. And then it also shows the roles and server groups that you've already installed previously to this. If you see a red next to it, it's possible that something needs attention. So you can click on events or services to see what's going on. The left-hand side, you see the same thing that you see listed here, although it's just listed individually. So ADDS is here, DHCP is here, etc. So all the different server roles that you have added into there. If it has a little arrow next to it, then you can manage it from here. And if it doesn't, you double click on it, then you can right click and manage it by choosing DNS Manager in this particular case. We also have tools. Tools are accessed by clicking on the Tools menu. Now these tools are the same tools we saw in Control Panel administrative tools that we clicked on earlier. So there's the same list of tools here that you can access here. From here you can bounce off, open up Active Directory like we opened up earlier, users and computers. We can also look at file and disk management. File and disk management is you can choose by file and storage services. And from here you can see various different pieces of information such as the services, the events that run file and disk management. You can also click on volumes to see what volumes you have installed. You can click on disks. There's our hard disks that we have in here. It's a basic disk. Once you convert it to a dynamic disk, it'll show up under volumes. We can have storage pools where we can create a multiple drive RAID array, that type of thing. We can create a share, and we'll show you how to do shares and securities in a later lab. And you can also connect to an iSCSI target in case you're using an iSCSI storage area network solution. So that's an overview of Server Manager. Now we'll look at computer management. Computer management has system tools. It can also have a different look at storage, and it shows you services and applications. So you can get to computer management a couple of different ways. You can right-click on the server and choose computer management, or you can get it from the start menu itself. So here is computer management, and you can see it has system tools such as the task scheduler, where you can schedule tasks, event viewer, where you can see what is going on with the server. There's lots of different events that you can review. You have shared folders. Here's another place you can create a shared folder if you choose. Performance Monitor allows you to get an idea of how the server is doing, we'll do a demonstration of that in a later lab. We've got Device Manager, tells us what devices are installed and whether or not they are functioning properly. If you see a device that's not functioning properly, it will show with a white circle with an arrow pointing down or with a yellow exclamation point. Storage, we can see another view of storage, and it gives us a graphical view of the hard drives that we have on here. And this is showing VirtualBox additions in our DVD slot, and our C drive has this particular size partition. And you can also right click on it and you can change drive letters, you can go into the properties, you can format the drive, whatever it is you'd like to do. It also has services and applications, which is at the bottom here. And services and applications shows us various different things, such as this is the IP version 4, policies, internet information services for a website, routing and remote access services for VPN. So any types of services and applications you've installed under their roles and features will show up here and allow you to manage them at that point. Remote desktop comes in a couple of different modes. The default, the one that comes with it, is the administration mode. That allows you to connect 2 administrators to the server at any one time simultaneously. Application server mode is something different. It allows you to install applications and allows you to access those applications from any thin client or remote desktop protocol. So let's talk about enabling them. First, we'll go into our server and we'll go ahead and close up what we had earlier. And from here, we can click on System, and we can click on Remote Settings. And this brings us to a tab that shows us Remote Assistance, Remote Desktop. Remote Assistance allows you to remotely assist someone else, so you can both be connected to the remote desktop session at the same time. And Remote Desktop says several different options here. One is to not allow any kind of remote connections to this computer, so just reject them, or allow them, but if you leave this particular one without checking the box underneath it, then it'll only be Windows Vista or newer, or unless you, on Windows XP, you can install the latest version of Remote Desktop, which is more secure. If you check this box, it means any version of Remote Desktop can access that. As long as they have the network level authentication, which is recommended. So if you really want to have your secure setup, then make sure that you check this particular box that has the network level authentication. Now we're in a remote desktop session right now, so you can see at the top where this is the bar that you see when you're in a remote session. And if we click the middle bar, it allows it to be tiled. Click it back and it shows full screen. You access this particular program by either typing MSTSC or choosing from your menu. You can click on Search and type in Remote Desktop and click on that particular connection. So in summary, we discussed administration tools, server manager, computer management, and remote desktop. Next up is Part 2, Lab 2, the MMC, roles and features, registry, and performance monitoring.